Hello everybody, welcome to Artist Waves live interview series. My name is Jeff Gora. Good Thursday afternoon, and as usual, thank you K-Bong. Could you hear K-Bong's theme song? K-Bong, for anyone who doesn't know, K-Bong, great reggae style artist out of Hawaii, San Diego, Hawaii and San Diego, not Hawaii, San Diego. Wrote our theme song. When I interviewed him, he wrote our theme song right on the spot. So that's why I always play that in the beginning of our interviews. So anyway, today, my live interview guest is, let me read off a couple of the projects you may know him by. From the band 11, founding member of the band 11, Queens of the Stone Age, Them Crooked Vultures, Mark Lanigan, Chris Cornell's Euphoria Morning. That would be Alain Johannes. So Alain is going to be joining us. I think Alain might be here, so I'm going to get him in. Alain and I collaborated on a 20-year anniversary of Euphoria Morning last year. It was really one of my favorite interviews and pieces I've ever done. So Alain, I believe, is in Chile right now. So let's connect. Let's talk.
Hello.
Hey, Alain.
You hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Hang on a second. I don't hear you.
No.
Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're good. What's
There we
up?
go. Right
Hi,
on.
Jeff. How
How
are
are
you,
you?
buddy? I'm okay. You are correct. I am in Chile. I'm in Santiago since March.
See, this amazes me. A click of a button on a phone. I'm sitting here in Boston. You're in
Right?
Santiago, and here we are.
I
Like
mean, come
we're
on.
right next to each other.
Send me some seafood, bro.
Yeah, will do. So,
Yeah.
how are you? How's everything in Santiago?
I
What?
mean, we've been on lockdown pretty much since middle of March, and it got a little hairy recently, so we continue to be on lockdown, like something like 7,000 cases a day. Um, but it seems to be getting better now. I mean, obviously, I'm just staying put in the room. I was quite ill in LA before I came out, so I'm taking care of myself just in case. Though what I had was suspiciously similar to what some people describe, but if I didn't have it, then I'm certainly not in any position to catch it now at
Yeah,
my age and fragility at the moment. So yeah.
right on. So you went to San Diego with intention of returning shortly, and then you basically got stuck, or?
Well, no, I mean, I came down to join my bros in the trio Cote Foncea and Fela Foncea, and
Okay.
our friends Chris Saedo singing and Choco playing guitar. We were forming. We basically were going to perform Euphoria Morning in its entirety at Lollapalooza. I think it was the 28th of March. And so I got here. We rehearsed for about a week, a little bit more than that, and then kind of went to the beach at this beach town with my cousins for a couple of days, and then they locked us in. So obviously Lollapalooza has been postponed till probably next year now. Who knows? I mean, obviously, so there's been some talk of some stuff happening in October or November, but we'll see. I mean, it's pretty hairy right now. So anyway, I was here with my intention to get back to LA late March for a day to repack for my acoustic tour of Europe, which is going to be April and May and into June, and so all of that has been pushed to probably next year now. So we'll see.
So
Yeah,
crazy. It's just wild. I mean, are
yeah.
you are what are the guidelines in terms of like coming back and leaving
Well, I
because
mean,
of that?
there are flights, just no direct flights anymore. You know what I'm saying? So the only option I have is to go through Miami, which is kind of a hot spot right now. And since we're locked down here, it's kind of a hot spot too. So, and I'm pretty sure that they're selling every single seat, and they say no, we're keeping a distance, but I doubt that's happening. So, I'm sticking around. We'll see what happens. We're supposed to do a live stream show with my trio coming up here in on July 24th at Santiago Music. Um, So I'm sticking around for that. Obviously, I might stick around a little longer. It all depends on how safe it seems to travel. Because I mean, it's like 26 hours with a layover. Santiago, Miami, then LA, and then I'd have to quarantine for 2 weeks before my sister lets me in the house again. So, so I'm kind of in for the long run. And I have moments where I'm losing my mind because obviously I'm sitting here alone, and I do have some instruments there. As you can see, I've got a few things here.
Oh, right on.
See?
There you go.
Yeah. Because I keep some stuff here, obviously. And so I'm able to do a little bit of recording, a little bit of working on music. But sometimes it gets to be so much that I just don't feel like doing anything at all. Even though I've got a beautiful view of the Cordillera, which you probably can't see because it's kind of a smoggy day today. But it's this massive mountain range called the Cordillera, which is like the Himalayas, and it's winter here because it's the south, south. So I got two winters. That's kind of cool, right? Like back
That's
to back.
cool. Yeah,
No?
that's a unique year.
Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. So speaking of being in Chile, I want to show you something real quick. We have an artist that we collaborate with quite a bit who's from South America. His name is Carlos Vargas, and he's an illustrator. And he sent me this today as a reminder. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is really cool. Have you? That's
Oh,
you.
I remember that one. Yes. Oh, I love that one.
And it says Chile wants you back already. So
Yeah. Well, I'm here,
Carlos, he's
bro. Tell
back.
Carlos,
He's
hey,
back.
I never left. That's really sweet. I
Yeah.
love that one. Yeah.
Yeah, Carlos is really great, and I love it too. I was glad he reminded me of that. So speaking of going back to LA, I'm always fascinated by your personal story, by your journey. I know you're from where you are right now. What
Hmm.
age? I was wondering if you can remind me again. What age did you end up getting to Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, I left. My grandmother took me to Zurich, to Switzerland, when I was about, I think, a year and a half old or something. And I didn't come back to Santiago to Chile until 2010, where I met my, real father and brothers and cousins and aunts and the entire side of the family that I had never met. But so then we were there in Europe up until 68 to 74, the Mexico City, and then I moved to LA in basically the last day of 74. So that's when I got to LA. That's where I went to junior high school, Bancroft. That's where I met Jack Irons and Hillel Slovak, and we started our first little trio in Jack's bedroom. And later in high school, we hooked up with Flea, and obviously met Anthony, and then the whole side of that whole LA connection, and then meeting Natasha. That was all in LA. So I got there a pretty long time ago. Like
Yeah.
yeah, last year 74.
And the Hillel and Flea and that whole history is just, it's amazing. It's so cool. Like I the whole Southern California scene at that time, it's just remarkable. And have you gotten to read Flea's book by any chance?
I have it's on my list to do. I have a copy, but it got to LA, and I know that he talks a little bit about that period. I hear it's a really beautiful book. I have that and Mark Lanigan's book to
Yeah.
read. You know, but yeah, I mean, it was a beautiful thing because I mean, I remember junior high school meeting Jack in a really unusual way. He was dressed up as Gene Simmons for the talent show, and as he was walking down, and I'd never met him, and I barely spoke any English, but for some reason, and it's not really my character, I just wondered whether his codpiece was really protective or not. So as he walked by, I punched him in the dick, kind of like, not hard, just kind of like, is this thing protective? And he's like, ow, you dick. And then he told Hillel, this kid, he goes, what's he look like? Oh man, I heard him play guitar. He's an amazing guitarist, and we should jam. And so we started jamming, and that's how the whole thing began, really. And
You
then, of
can't
course,
make that up. That's a rock
yeah,
story right there. That's
for
amazing.
sure.
That's hilarious.
And Hillel was Paul Stanley. He was Gene Simmons. We had a couple of other friends. Spencer Rotten was Ace Frehley, and Mike Horn was Peter Criss. And they were really into Kiss. I was more into the Zeppelin, Queen, Bowie kind of vibe. But yeah, it was pretty fantastic to be able to maybe woodshed like we did. We spent so many hours every day after school learning together, doing covers at first, and then we had a bass player named Todd who took us through 11th grade, and then he decided to quit, and then Flea was our friend who played amazing jazz trumpet, and we're like, hey, dude, I think you can totally do this bass thing, and he wanted to learn, and so he became our bassist. We had 3 months to show him the songs and teach him a few basic things. He still kind of does some of the exercises that I showed him back when we were kids, and he became our bassist all the way through after high school when it became What Is This? Because we went through a bunch of names. Anthem with a Y because there was an Anthem with an E in the valley on the other side, so we had to change our handwrite the Y over the pin. We made these pins that said Anthem with an E, and we were like, ah, screw it, just Sharpie over the E with a Y.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
the reason I bring that up and the reason I asked about the history with Flea and the book and stuff is because, first of all, you're right, not to go off on a tangent, but it is such a beautifully written book.
Yeah.
Like, I was intrigued just because it's Flea, and I was
Yeah.
just intrigued. But then you read it, and you're like, oh my goodness, like his creative writing and the way that he um, really paints a picture with his words is, I was just blown away. But anyway, the reason I bring that up is because he did speak of that time with you, and he wrote it so beautifully. I wanted to just read it. He said, he helped me develop the physical ability to play the rhythms in my heart. The
Mhm.
exercises he taught me are still the ones I play today before every show. I thought that was
Mhm.
so well put, and that was such a
Well, it's
nice
really
way
sweet.
to describe it.
That's very sweet of him. Yeah, I mean, obviously, he was already. I mean, he's born a musician, and he didn't really need to learn anything except just apply a different musculature to the bass. And he grew up listening to jazz and understood everything about music perfectly well, and developed this amazing flea style. Yeah, it was a beautiful thing. And then it's I think it was I was playing with Queens in 2005, and the Peppers were on the same festival, and he came up into the dressing room, and he was playing the same warm up exercises, for it's kind of like this. It's something to make all your fingers move in a very gentle manner and keep all the possibilities of fingering um, kind of under you, at all times. And that was really cool. And he told Josh that I taught him that, and it was really sweet.
Yeah, the bond from that time frame to see how it
Yeah.
still has evolved is pretty inspiring. Well, another reason I bring that up too is because the way he said, "Play the rhythms in my heart." Like I've thought about that. I don't know when I read it, maybe 5 or 6 months ago, but
Hmm.
I've thought about that line quite a bit in listening to your music. It almost like changed the way that I heard your music, especially with 11,
Hmm.
because I felt like almost the patterns rhythmically with guitar, they really back up that sentence.
Oh
Like
wow.
I can hear it, and I can hear it with the new music too. Like from home, and specifically the guitar riff you're playing in Hollow Bones. I'm like, I kind of get what he means now when he says the rhythms of my heart. When I see the way that you write and you play, and the way you always kind of have.
Yeah, I mean, it's rhythm is huge. Obviously, like I started playing when I was really young, and one of the things that really attracted me early on was flamenco guitar, and especially Paco de Lucia, who was like one of my first giant inspirations, besides the Beatles, of course. Even before electric, and flamenco music has tremendous rhythmic power, and it's kind of directly tied into the passion. And I guess it could be considered exotic in a way, but a lot of it in 3/4 time, and subdivisions that you don't always hear, but they're very propulsive, maybe dating back to the earliest ritualistic music or dance music that you can imagine, which was a little bit different then. But I love polyrhythmic music. I love Indian classical music, and I think since getting back to playing in a more simple way, especially with a cigar box guitar that Matty Barato made me, which has such a percussive possibility that I use on this record and on Spark, and when I tour solo acoustic, I use that almost exclusively. Besides a couple of acoustics, and yeah, I mean, it's just because you can be your own drummer in a way and have that pulse inside you. And growing up together with Jack and developing together as musicians was always super inspiring, and we kind of help each other with the whole rhythmical aspect of things and how that connects to the pulse of a song.
Right on. Well
Yeah.
said. It makes me. I mentioned your new music and Hum, your new solo record's coming out at the end of the month,
Hmm.
July 31st. By the way, what is it like? I don't know how well in advance before you announced anything that you were going to release this record, but was it always planned to be released in the end of July? And what is it like to have new music
Well, I
going
mean,
out to the world now?
sorry, what was the last thing? I cut
What's
you
it
off.
like to have new music going out into the world at this time?
Well, I mean, obviously, I had no idea at the time. I must say that the last couple of years have been really difficult, especially after Chris Cornell passed away. I kind of put me in a really kind of, it would obviously not only missing him, but it brought back a lot of other stuff, having lost, obviously Natasha, but um, mom and dad and my uncle Peter, who was hugely influential to me. He was the one that put a guitar in my hand. And I kind of got into this dark space, probably, you know, starting around spring of last year. And I needed to make a record. I knew that because I always have this pull. Like Fragments was about 5 years ago. Spark was 10 years ago. It's not like a 5 year cycle because hopefully, I get to do much more music now. That's the idea anyway. But I found that I had just hit a wall with my health, mental and physical. And instead of trying to force a record, I decided to go on tour and connect to my fans. Went to Europe and I did a couple of months of solo touring. And then I produced a really cool band called The Devils in Italy. And I got back from Naples in the middle of November. And immediately I got this flu, which turned into God knows what it was in the end because they didn't know. It's just like basically could have been pneumonia, double pneumonia, bronchitis, whatever. In the end, I was laid out for almost 2.5 months. Um, and I got up in early February, mixed the record that I produced, and then all I had was the arpeggio of Mermaid Scream. I had that because I improvise on Instagram all the time, and I keep track of these little things that come out. So this like little seedlings. I had that, and I had the arpeggiated part in hum or the picking part, and that was it. But I knew the first it wasn't called Mermaid Scream yet. So I said tomorrow I start, and I got in there. I had my Portuguese guitar. I lay down those rolling arpeggios. The melody came. I started overdubbing, and imagining all these different parts and my voice and the percussion. Wrote the lyrics, sang it, mixed it, went to bed. Next morning, hum, same thing. Then I had two songs, and I listened to them back to back, knowing it was going to be the first song and the second song. And then every day for 12 days, except one day I took off, this song just came to me, and I wrote and recorded it in one day. And then the next one, I kind of imagined, okay, now I've got four songs. What happens to song number five? Right before you turn the vinyl over. I was almost listening for the album already finished somewhere, like it's already existing. I just need to tune into what it is and have it be dictated to me by the muse, as it were. And so I finished it literally with 2 days to pack and go do a video with my friend and manager Frank that we did hum in the woods, and then one that's coming out my friend Liam Lynch did. And then I got on a plane, I got here, and it's so fresh that I even have to go and listen to stuff because I forgot what tuning was on which song and what capo it was because I'd just written it, I just performed it, and what the lyrics were because I was writing the lyrics up to the minute that I sang the song and reading the lyrics as I sang the songs. And so it's super fresh. I mean, it's just happened just now, literally, like right before coming out. And then obviously I was going to go out and figure out how to play these songs live in addition to the other stuff. And here we are. It's been like almost 4 months locked up. So it's very trippy, man.
Wow,
Yeah.
I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. So you have three songs out right now. The newest with the video paired with Hollow Bones, which is
Hmm.
such a beautiful song.
Thank you.
I kind
Thank
of think
you.
it speaks to what we were talking about the tugging on the rhythms of your heart and kind of having your lyrics and words float over
Hmm.
that. That's my favorite of the three so far. I love them all, but that one
Oh, thank you.
hit me in particular. You know what it is? I think that song. Um, the last time we spoke about the 20-year anniversary of Euphoria Morning,
Yeah.
and that song it reminds me of two things. It reminds me of my favorite 11 song, which is "You're My Diamond," and
Hmm.
then it reminds me of Euphoria Morning. And when I say that, I don't mean like it sounds like Euphoria Morning. I don't
Right.
mean like it sounds like a song in particular that's on any of those previous records, but it gives me that feeling of Euphoria Morning, like
Mm.
that solo record. Like this is how I feel.
Yeah.
This is me right now, and this is how I feel. And that's I think that's why I say that.
Well, thank you. Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I felt their presence extremely strongly while I was making this record. I was in that kind of a trance, and I kind of heard Natasha and Chris advising me as I was doing it, like, with the lyrics and the harmonies and the inversions and what goes where, kind of remembering that feeling that we had making Euphoria Morning, where we were kind of like this three-headed monster that was, or this three views of a single thing, like a prismic kind of way of approaching it, working as a team, working as a unit. Because it helped me to achieve the possibility, so I didn't feel so alone. It's kind of, I'm not a creature of like, not like a loner per se, but I really love context. I love being in the band. I love sharing experiences. When I produce records, I try to integrate into what it is that the music is calling for, and I try to become invisible and blend into the wishes of the artist I'm working with. Um, and it's funny because like Mermaid Scream directly. I mean, I just seen the Lighthouse, the Eggers movie that did The Witch, and there's all this Greek mythological themes, and I just pictured like these mermaids, and because especially because the rolling part of Mermaid Scream reminds me of ocean waves crashing. So everything was supporting that, and I just kept picturing like Chris and Natasha as the two mermaids kind of singing these mythological creatures now forever in my soul. Um, yeah, so it reminded me of that feeling, and that's when I get into that place where I'm making these solo records. Um, it's about connection to the people that I love, and to all the music or the musicians that have influenced me, and all the things in life that I've experienced, which point to connection and love and all those things. So it's funny you picked that up about that song because I can see what you're definitely understand what you're saying.
Well, thanks for sharing the background. That's a really deep and beautiful way of describing it and thinking of it. So
Hmm.
that's pretty touching. By the way, that's Chris Cornell right there. He's
Yeah, to see
that's
here
a that's
he
a
is.
pencil drawing by an incredible artist that
It's incredible.
another incredible artist we work with. And
That's an
so,
incredible piece right there. It's
yeah,
beautiful.
I keep it
Yeah.
over my shoulder for every interview I do. But there's a huge inspiration from him to me too. But
Yeah.
that's another track I can go way off of. But
Yeah.
I think back to our conversation, our interview with talking about the 20th anniversary of Euphoria Morning last year or a year and a half ago, whatever that was. And one thing in
Yeah.
particular that sticks out to me is that I really remember we talked a lot about the details and about the moments of the record and how some of the songs came to be and
Hmm.
just how special of a time it was.
Yeah.
But I really recall personally the way that you talked about it, like the way you delivered the message of how you were answering the question. Yeah, there
Mm.
was such a tone to your voice of like, you could just tell right away how much it meant to you. And there
Yeah.
were moments where like we both paused and we're like, all right, got to catch my breath for a second here.
Yeah.
I'm getting the chills thinking about it, but I don't know if that's going to translate, here in this type of format. But I'd be kicking myself if I didn't bring that up because
Oh,
that's what I
thank you.
think about when we talk about like just the way you spoke of it was really touching.
Oh,
So I
thank
mean,
you.
it's one of the most special records I think that's out there. So I'm
I mean,
sure
I
it is for
think
you too.
I 100% agree with you. It's I can say that with a lot of pride, and happy and blessed that I was able to experience that in my life. And I think you can hear it in the record, and you can hear it in the music. Um, this quality that it has, this kind of like you know artists searching together for something transcendent and timeless. without work, overthinking it, just kind of working hard towards making it happen, but also the environment being created where we didn't pressure ourselves with outside thoughts about outside influence. Is someone gonna like that? Is that people gonna, think this is too different or not different enough, or all those stupid things that when you allow thinking to come in the door when you're being creative with any kind of endeavor, it almost never helps. So yeah, and having three completely different personalities and super talented people, Natasha and Chris, ridiculous geniuses, kind of like all having each other's backs and working towards a common goal. It's something that's very rare, and I got to experience it. So I'm very, very stoked about that. It brings me great. Obviously, there's a lot of hurt and pain from missing them, but the fact that that exists as a testament to what we achieved as friends, as connected artist souls, as it were.
That record changed my life. I know that's kind of a cliche, but it's the truth. It's the most obvious way to say it, and so I have a huge deal of gratitude and appreciation for the making of it and everything, that all the elements of it, even still today, because like you said, I mean, it's the creative process. It's like you get captured in these moments, you make these things, you write these beautiful pieces with friends and people that mean a lot to you, and then you put it out, but then the drive keeps going, the search continues. It's almost like you're never satisfied, but
yeah,
you also can take a moment to appreciate the impact that, I think it's important to take a moment to appreciate the impact of how the music or the particular record can really just move mountains,
Yeah, it's an incredible gift to be able to be part of something like that. When someone comes up to you and tells you how much they've been moved by it, it's happened to me. I've been very blessed a few times, not only with 11 but with Spark. People that are dealing with loss and grief, how it helped them, kind of like not only cope, but almost like put things in a more universal perspective that kind of helps you not feel so alone about it, and realize that it's just something that is part of life, and that love eventually conquers everything. That especially if you're connected like that, and that if someone's not here anymore, you can still have them inside you, and that can make it bearable and continue to inspire you in many ways. And when I listen to Euphoria Morning, I have that feeling, of course, even more so than before, because of bringing me back to that really special thing. And I do think it's a timeless record. And I'm not saying it like someone, oh yeah, well I was part of a timeless record. It's just because I can listen to it as a listener, and it's fucking badass. What can I tell you? It's amazing. And that's that. Yeah.
It just is. It's just a fact. It's just a plain old fact. Another thing another collaborative project, for lack of a better term, that I wanted to ask you about, I didn't get a chance to last time, was them Crooked Vultures. So not to shift into a totally different direction, but so I come from a background of music. Like I'm a guitar player, songwriter. Like that's where I come from in these conversations, not necessarily reporting or journalism.
Right.
So I say that because I went to them Crooked Vultures show. I went to one show. Actually, I went to two. I saw you at ACL for, I think that was one of the first shows. And then on the tour, on your headlining tour, I saw you, and I was living in New York, at my favorite venue in the world, which was Roseland Ballroom.
Roseland, which I think is no longer there now, right? I think it's
no
gone.
longer there. So bad, so sad. But anyway, I went by myself, and I was in the balcony, the top balcony overlooking the front of the stage, and I was blown away. Obviously, I'd had the record for a while. I love the songs, but I was blown away by the musicianship between the four of you guys on stage. And now I'm a words guy. Like I love lyrics, and I think Josh's words and his singing is great in that on that record. But when you guys would just jam, the four of you, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't want that to end. Like just keep playing. I had never experienced that in my life where I could see just four musicians on stage playing their individual instruments. You know, Dave Grohl, the animal driving the train, and then it was just like mind blowing. It was the only time I've ever had that experience where I could just listen to the music. I don't care if anybody talks live. It was remarkable. So I know people that itch for more of that, maybe because
Yeah.
for that reason, but yeah, that was
Thank you. I mean, you know, it was pretty much like they had already gotten together, and I was just basically brought in to be part of recording some of the stuff, and especially Josh and I, me being there as his engineer and kind of bouncing off stuff while he was laying down the guitars, structuring songs, singing, writing, and then afterwards he asked me to be part of the band. You know, I mean, they all did live, and obviously, I mean, I was just like, okay, whoa, what? I'm JPJ and I on the stage. I mean, I remember like one of the first shows, like he came up to me like with this look in his eyes, like check this out, and he played this crazy like riff, and I'm just like my mouth is open, like going, oh my god, incredible, and I'm on stage, and I hear this feedback like in the background, like kind of like, what's that noise? Like something, the monitor is going off or something. And I look down and I take my hands off the guitar, like just sort of like, you know. And then I just kind of made this move where I just picked it up again, like try to appear like I meant to do that, but I was totally just completely fanboyed and blown away. And what was amazing about the experience was we started to develop more and more chemistry. Our chemistry grew stronger and stronger. Trusted each other. We're exploring the songs, and by the end of the tour, like every song was almost like 20 minutes. It was one of those like what used to be a really tight set was now like over 2 hours, and we added a few things, and it was an incredible experience for me because just to be like after the show going to the bus JPJ would come out with his mandolin and he'd ask me to grab my cigar box and we'd jam, or you know he took me to like a bluegrass jam in Nashville where I just kind of absorbed because it was just like way in over my head, and I just played some rhythm guitar, and then they asked me to take a solo. I was like, no, no, I'm just gonna play this rhythms. Um, and like ask, like, hey, there's a ancient instrument collection over. I think it was we were in Boston actually, a beautiful collection of harpsichords and lutes and viola da gambas, and we went together and looked at those and took photos, and it was just a beautiful experience. The whole thing. I hope that at some point, I mean, obviously with everyone's schedules, I'm always ready to go. I'll drop everything to go. I mean, maybe one little request is like maybe one photo where I'm also in there, because you do all this amazing experiences. You play all these amazing shows, and then suddenly there's like, well, this trio was incredible. This trio, it was the best trio I've ever seen. It's like it sounded like four people. It was amazing.
That's true. That's true. I never thought
That's
about that.
okay.
You're right. We gotta make that happen. We're getting a lot of nice.
I actually photoshopped myself into all the publicity photo. Obviously, there's enough YouTube
That's
footage where I'm there to the point where like they walk off stage and I'm playing a solo on my own. So that's how much not a trio it was. But okay, whatever.
that's hilarious. That's there's some Dave Grohl humor in this topic. I could see something in his humor line developing from that. A little fresh pots part two maybe.
I I made Petrosino laugh. That's for sure. Anyway,
Well, we're getting
yeah.
a lot of nice comments on the Them Cricket Vultures topic. A lot of people saying best show they've ever seen, need a new record. So that seems to always strike a chord with people, that record and
Yeah.
what that experience was like. So it
I'd
was
love
pretty.
for that to happen at some point. Of course. Um, it probably, we'll see what happens because the rest of the year seems pretty iffy in terms of a lot of
Yeah.
bigger live shows. But time to make a bunch of records.
Yeah. There you go. Well, I'm glad we
Yeah.
got it. I'm really glad during this time that we have new music from you. Selfishly,
Thank you.
that's coming from a place that is so sincere and can help people, and just in a time where you can feel quite stale. Maybe it gives you some of your emotion back when you
Yeah.
know. So I'm really appreciative and
Thank
grateful
you, Jeff.
for that. We solicit some questions sometimes beforehand,
Hmm.
for anyone that would have a question for you.
Hmm.
So I'm going to also say, if anyone, we've gotten some really cool shout outs from people in Chile watching, Mexico. I think I saw Austin, Texas. So if anyone has a question, you could fire one into a comment. I think we probably have time for maybe one. And I'll ask one more before we get to that. But um, I kind of come in full circle. We're talking a little bit about some collaborations and obviously your solo material that's coming out too. But I've always
Hmm.
noticed that like a lot of your your musicianship and your guitar personality, if that even makes sense, is very
Hmm.
collaborative. You know,
Yeah.
like there's a it seems that you complete a lot of these really cool projects and take them to the next level. So I'm curious, like as a musician, as a guitar player, as a songwriter, how important has it been for you throughout your career to have that where you can collaborate with people and be parts of bands or be parts of these special, unique projects, and
Hmm.
then also have your own solo track? Is it a balance, or do you think of it that way?
I mean, I've never thought of being having any solo material, being a solo artist at all. I mean, maybe in the early '80s, I used to do a few little solo things, but mostly like weirdo improvisation or looping with, tape loops or whatever. But I just needed to make spark. I needed to communicate my love for Natasha, and then since then it's become something that I do, and I look forward to. I mean, Josh brought me back to Chile. He invited me to open up for Queens, and I met my dad and met my whole family here because of that. And Chris brought me in 2011 as well, and I was playing my set before his, and then joining him on stage acoustically. I think for me, just the fact that I can now play so many songs from the past and my solo stuff and travel light, make it affordable because obviously, I play little clubs all over the world here and there, and some places a little bit bigger. But just having that solo side now, it seems to be something that I definitely want to keep exploring. But obviously, I'm such a creature of collaboration. I love, being part of bands and being part of musical projects, whether it's Desert Sessions or when PJ Harvey asked me to be part of the Hope Six, and touring with those wonderful, incredible musicians and become great friends. With my trio here with Cote and Felo Fonsea and other projects stemming from that in the future. Um, I definitely see the solo thing being something that now I require to exist as well as the collaborations. But having said that, I think more than anything, I just want to do as much as I can with the time that's left. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not so much a mortality thing, but because of being sick for quite a while and hitting a wall, I got all this energy for moving forward. Of course, it's kind of funny to go, let's go, and then straight into lockdown for 4 months. But uh, so we'll see. I mean, the future, it's going to be interesting, and we're all going to do our thing to continue because we have to. We're born with it, and
Yeah,
music is a beautiful thing.
yeah, for sure. I couldn't agree more. It
Yeah.
keeps us going. So a question that was submitted that I wanted to ask you about was interesting from Jake Lilly 10. They were asking, it was submitted through the question section here. Um,
Yeah.
what you can say about Santiago Rock? Is that a stream coming up or anything?
Santiago Music, yeah,
Yeah.
it's coming up. Yeah, it's a go as far as we know. Obviously, we're
Okay.
still on lockdown. We're supposed to play the 24th of July
Okay.
with the trio, so we're gonna have to get together and rehearse pretty soon and stuff. But we'll see what happens. If it's not, we're just waiting like everybody else. But it's a go as of right now. It's happening. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
And then one other one was just you touched a little bit about it already on the writing and the making of the new record Hum. But we got a general question about what was your creative process like? You did mention it, but if you were to think
Yeah.
about that as a kind of a blanket statement, was it
Well,
something that was normal for you, or did
I
it?
mean, for me, it's become kind of the way I do things since Spark. Like I don't prepare. I don't completely not prepare. I have little bits, that are kind of like a little seed that all I got to do is like water it and the song appears. In other words, it's kind of inherently like I post on Instagram all the time. Like
Yeah,
some of them can't become songs because they're like little reverse guitar weirdo shit or whatever. Um, but very often, like I literally just press record on my 8 millimeter app, which I love, the little film look, and I point it at me and I'll start playing, and something will come. Sometimes I something comes in my head and I just work it up real quick and then record it, and then it's out there. Which is a great way for me to like have this feeling of connection from the beginning. Like I'm sending it to you to listen to. It's imperfect. It's not finished. It's an idea, but here it is. And I keep track of all of those, and they often end up becoming songs. So I had that with Hum. I had a couple of things, and maybe even one other one if I think, really try to remember correctly now. And then it's just for me. I just have to wait for this buildup of energy, almost like this like the right before the kettle boils. You can
yeah,
hear it go brrrr, and so I start to go like brrrr, like that, and then I just need to get into a studio and I need to just go and start and trust. That's the main thing for me is trust. And thankfully, I've prepared all my life with my experience in recording and playing other instruments and listening to music for endless hours, being inspired by stuff that if I just trust that it'll come, then it comes. And I just kind of get out of the way. I let it happen, and it does, and I love it because that way it's the closest to the original inception. Very often, in the past, you would like record a quick demo or just a voice memo of something, and then you go through the trouble of like rehearsing it and arranging it and all this stuff, and then suddenly you find yourself going back and listening to the thing, and there's something there that you missed. It's this power of this original thing. What is that thing that you missed? So I try to make sure that doesn't happen. So it's it's as close to the moment of inspiration as possible. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to feel good. It has to express from the heart. And that's basically it for me. That's all the things like in music have those qualities to them. It sounds like that person's last day on earth. They're in there. This is
yeah,
it. This is me communicating the experience of being alive through music or through painting or through poetry.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, right on. I love hearing that because I get it, and it's you could tell that that's where the music comes from and where the best stuff comes from. It's not fabricated. So, um, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me from continents away, and
Yeah.
we
My
could be
pleasure,
so
man.
far away, but we can also be on the same wave. So that's really cool. Hum's coming out at the end of the month. I can't wait to hear the rest of it. Um, I'll
Thank you, Jeff.
yeah, I really can. And we got the
We always
24th.
have we
Was
always
that?
have good chats. We gotta do it more often. I gotta make more records.
Yeah, there you go. I would
Yeah.
love to.
Yeah.
Well, stay
Well,
safe.
you
I
too,
thank
brother.
you again. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you when we can all get back out on the road and see a show and talk again sometime. So thanks so
That's
much.
right. All right, man. Stay safe. Take care,
You
buddy.
too. Take care. Have a
See
good
ya.
one.
Bye.
All right. Alan Johannes. How cool is that, man? He's a special musician. Thank you for these nice comments. Great conversation, Rad. Thank you. I really appreciate everybody being so engaging. I think that's the word I was looking for. Engaging and interested and here, and all of the nice thumbs up and comments and questions that we received. These are really fun and they mean a lot. And we're very selective. Selective maybe is not the right word, but we're very focused on who the right guests and the right conversations would be. So it makes it so much better when people can engage and participate and say what's on their mind about the questions that they would have for whoever we're speaking to. Speaking of which, let me just play for 1 second. Let me just play a little bit of. I don't know if you can hear it, but this is Alain's new song. It's called "Hallowed Bones." I'll play it in the background a little bit, but he really plays from the heart, and I think this song backs it up. It's really good. It's really good. The guitar and everything. Anyway, so thank you so much. I will be signing off now. I appreciate Bart, right on. I agree with you, and thank you so much for the kind words. Artist Waves, Jeff Forrest signing off. By the way, early in the interview, that was my chair that made a really weird noise. It was my chair. Next week, we'll have a few more. We got Lauren Jenkins next week, Asia Volkman, and a couple of others. So we're continuing to do this thing. Thank you, and stay safe. Peace.